Hello everyone, I'm here to provide you with a quick look and a quick example of the use of the JProgressBar component. Of course, I won't be able to go over every JProgressBar method in this presentation given the time, and I'd like to keep this brief, but I should be able to provide an example of at least two functions, and I'm looking into using the set value and the set string painted functions. So, what is JProgressBar? JProgressBar is a component that shows the progress of a task being executed. Um, so, for example, when you're installing an application, you generally see a progress bar showing where you are in the process, which is helpful for an end user to have and not to be left in the dark where she is in installation. And this is accomplished by showing the user a rectangular bar that's constantly filling up as the task is in progress. And a label is usually displaying a percentage complete of whatever task the user is performing. So at the end, the goal is for the bar to be full and the label to be displaying 100% to let the user know that the task is complete. So how do you create a new instance of JProgressBar? The JProgressBar component has different signatures. In this presentation, I am creating a new JProgressBar object, setting up a minimum and a maximum value. I'm using this example because I want to simulate the progress of a discrete 20-step task with a beginning and an end. So the maximum value in this case would be set as 20, since that is the number of steps I wish to perform to completion of my task. And I will set a minimum to 0, since that's the starting point of the task, since I haven't started any steps yet. One thing to note, though, is that you can create a JProgressBar not knowing how many steps it would take to complete a task, and use a method called set indeterminate method. Set indeterminate. To let your program know whether you can't determine the scope of your task or not. For example, when you don't know how many steps it takes to perform a task, you will pass true as the parameter for the set determinate function. And once you know how long it would take to complete the task, once you find it, you can call the method again, passing a false as the parameter, since now you know and you can determine the length of your task, and you can start counting the progress. Anyway, going back to creating JProgressBar object, um, you can create an instance of the JProgressBar object without passing any parameters. In this case, the bar would not provide a progress string. Another way to create an instance of the JProgressBar is passing the orientation of the bar. For example, I like to say that I like to have a vertical bar or a horizontal bar as a parameter. And of course, you can also pass the orientation along with the max and the minimum value. I will show an example of this later on in this presentation. Moving along, the methods covered in this presentation. I mentioned earlier the set value and the set string painted are going to be the two methods. And again, time only permits examples of two functions, and I will be focusing on these. The set value sets the current value of the progress bar. In my example, I'll have to use this to set the starting point of this value to 0, since no steps have been performed yet on my task. The program will then set this value to 1 once one step has been performed, and then 2, and so on, until step 20 is reached, since step 20 is the last step of my 20-step task in my example, in my simulation. The set string painted function will set the string painted property for the component to true or false. True means that my progress bar will display the percentage string on the UI. We'll show the little string there. and false means that the percentage string is not displayed. You only see the visible bar on your giving as the only indication that the progress bar the progress of the task is going on. So let's look at an example. Let's see this in action. Let me exit out of this. All right, let me go over some examples here of what I was talking about earlier. First, I'm going to take a look and show. Actually, first I'm going to show you the application running, just to see what I have. I have here. I have this window here with a button to start a task, and when I click this, it will quickly go and show the progress of my task, right, through my simulator. And the simulator always doing is like going over. It's a timer that with a counter, like, so each count would be like a step. And I have this in 20 steps, so you went like in increments of 5%. It makes sense. So I'll close this. Now I'm gonna show you that changing the max, like I showed you here, like it was 20. So if I change the max to 10, so now we're dealing with only 10 tasks, and I run this, right? And I go and I run. So the increments will be of tens, right? Until the end, it will run through the end until it's 100%. And like I mentioned earlier, the set string painted is one of the functions I like to show, and I have it here set to true. What this does, it show the set string painted will change the string painted property to either true or false. True, again, meaning that it would show the string. Let me show you what I mean. It will show you this little percentage string over here, which is set to 0, and it changes to 10%, 20%. It's good information to have, rather than if I change this to false, change it to false, and I run this, and it will give me just a bar, and I run this, it doesn't give me much information. It just shows me the bar going through completion. So that's I find it more useful to have this set and set to true. And the other method function that I wanted to discuss, like I said, was earlier, was the set value, and I have the set value here in the example set to 0, because this is actually setting the initial value of the bar. It's set to 0 because that's the beginning. You want to set at 0%. Let me set the max back to 20, so it's 20 steps. So this example is better. You could see it better. But if I set the value of this to 10, which is 50% of the 20 steps, and if I run this, it's gonna start my bar at 50%, and that doesn't make sense to me. I would not, nobody would start the bar at 20% to start the task. And of course, like, it's just for the initial value, because if you run the task, it will go back to 0% and 5% and count and recount. But it's just like a setting. I don't know who would use this, the initial set, as anything other than 0. But the set value is not to set the initial set. Is just used here to set the initial value of my my bar. It's used anytime that you need to set the value of the bar, like it's set here for the counter that I have simulating the tasks, the task and the steps, and it keeps setting the value after the step is incremented for my counter for the step. The last thing that I wanted to go over is the orientation. Like I said earlier, This is the where's it, the signature for the JProgressBar. Right now, I have this could be, you could just not send any parameters, or you could, the way my example I have a minimum and a max as the parameters, but I could add a parameter here in the beginning for the orientation. The default, if you don't put anything, the orientation is horizontal, and the zero is horizontal. So like, again, like I don't see the reason to put the zero here. If you're going to use a horizontal bar, you don't need it. But if you're going to use a vertical bar, which is 1, then you need to use this parameter. And if I run this, it will give me, it will show you the example of the bar in, vertically, and it just sets the orientation. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.